the one source, Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 364 of Sports Card Nation. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving a couple days ago with family and friends. And, it's the time of year, the holiday season, right? We're getting ready for Christmas or what holiday you may celebrate. But I think Thanksgiving really, at least for me, kind of ramps it up, right? And gets us thinking about the season, right? The holiday, winter, if you live here in the Northeast. And, I'm not a big winter guy, but I do like Thanksgiving and Christmas, which, can't do nothing about it, takes place in winter. So hopefully your holiday was a good one and a fun one, and glad to have you listening to the show. And, Thanksgiving's a time to reminisce for what we're thankful for and appreciate, and kind of give thanks and think about it, right? And I'm thankful for my friendship with my guest on this week's show, who returns for part two of our conversation, and that's Tony DiMarzio out of the Philly area. And when we talk, when he's been on the show, it's really, sometimes I think we forget we're even recording, and we're just throwing the hobby, throwing some topics around, covering the hobby. And it's a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoyed part one. If not, go back and listen to it. This is part two. All right, folks, welcome to part two of my conversation with my good friend Tony DiMarzio as we wrap up sort of the year that was in the hobby. We're going to start off here with part two. I'm going to talk about sort of being hesitant to post some of my collection on social media, and maybe not for reasons you would think. So I'll tease you with that. But here you go, part two with Tony DiMarzio. I'm even and I know I've told you this before, I'm sort of cautious of how many cards I post, because I don't want to come across as oh, John's showing another, four-figure card again. And to some, four-figure cards, I don't even want to, that's beneath me, right? And for me, that's sort of like my highest level. So like you said, everyone's got a different sort of level, budget, discretionary income. And, I think we have to be careful. We have to be cognizant. I don't want to say careful. I think we have to be cognizant of that. I know I told you a story where some of my content is doing a review of a show I set up at. And one of the first ones I ever did where I did that sort of content, I actually disclosed how much money I made at the show. And I had a gentleman fairly politely email me and said, John, I'm on a small budget. I'm if I buy a $30, $40 car, that's a big deal to me. And you're throwing around, hey, you made so many four figures at the show. And it sort of rubbed me. I like you, but it sort of rubbed me the wrong way hearing you talk in those terms. And obviously I didn't do that to make that person feel bad or feel lesser. But it wasn't really until I got that email from this person that I didn't even think about that maybe could be perceived as such, right? And then I felt bad. I actually responded back and hey, that wasn't my intent to make you feel inadequate. Like, the hobby's a fraternity, no matter what your budget level, I'll answer any question or help you out anytime you want. I didn't, and so I actually apologize. Some would say, well, you don't really owe an apology. But listen, he felt bad after hearing what I said, and I don't want that to be the case if I can prevent it. So I apologize. Kind of tried to explain that wasn't my intent. It wasn't to make him feel lesser or a lesser part of the hobby. But it also taught me the lesson I learned from it. And I always try to learn things as we all do, or hopefully that we all do. Tony's like, when I did future sort of show reviews, I stopped. I'd say the show was excellent, or I had one of my best shows financially, but I left off I stopped giving out figures or saying how
Hmm.
much I intake. And, just to prevent that from happening again. And I just thought if one person is emailing me saying that rubbed them the wrong way, how many didn't email and it still rubbed them, the wrong way. So I just didn't want to upset people. And again, that's a double-sided coin, right? I stopped giving out those figures in subsequent like card
Well,
show
I think you
reviews.
only did it once. I think it was a
Yeah, yeah.
one-time thing for it. So yeah. I mean,
Yep. But it's funny because I stopped doing it, and then every once in a while I'll get someone who will email me or DM me, Tony, and say, "Hey, why aren't you saying what you're saying? It was a great show. How much money did you make?" And then I respond back to that person saying, "Listen, some people don't want to hear that, or it rubs them the wrong way." So I stopped doing. And most people will respond back, "Okay, I get that, makes sense." And every once in a while, someone will respond back and say, "Well, tell me in the email. I'm not going to tell anybody." And I
mm,
still don't do that because I just don't want, you know what I mean? They could say that, and then you say what you make, and then they'd be like, "Oh, you know what I mean? Whatever." So it's neither to me at the end of the day, right? It's neither here nor there. If I said, "Hey, the show was great," was great. If I say the show was not great, didn't do well, then it is what it is. And then I don't just talk. It's a car, as we all know or should know, right? And I know you know this, Tony. Right? A card show isn't just about the dollar signs, right? It's about the people you meet and see again and talk to, and
mhm.
that come to my table that I know, and those conversations or acquiring a card. Even as a dealer, you buy cards, so it shouldn't just be about how much money you make. Sure, is that important? Sure. If you're a dealer and you set up at a show, that is important to say it's not as being disingenuous. But I don't want that to be the end all be all, especially when it comes to content creation. I don't want it to be just about dollars and cents. To me, I got into this hobby, and I'm going off on a little soapbox here, but I got into this hobby as a 7-year-old kid, Tony, and I didn't care what stuff was worth then, right? It was only as I matured through the hobby, acquired more cards, start working at a card store, start doing shows on my own for the first time, where that became more, uh, important or more of a part of the equation, if you will. But even then, and even now, it's not the end all be all. I don't.
Mhm.
I'd still do cards even if I wasn't doing card shows. I'd still do cards if I wasn't doing a podcast. So is money an important part of the hobby? To say no would not be truthful, right? But I don't want it to be the focal point or the only point. So I've stopped giving out some of those numbers, or even when I say, "Hey, I got this card," I don't always, say what it cost me or what I paid. And like this just as well. If someone wants to find out, they can. In today's tracking and analytics, people can find out what someone paid for a card if they're
Yeah.
dying to know. And so I don't make dollar signs a focal point. Is it a topic sometimes? Sure. I just don't want it to be a huge part of what I do or I talk about. But for some, it's a bigger quotient, if you will, or a bigger part of what they do. And then, frankly, there are some people and who are self-admittedly would tell you that's really the only reason they do it now. And again, it's America, right? You don't necessarily have to apologize for that. But for me, that's not my modus operandi. Sort of, kind of your thoughts on sort of that rant that I
Hmm.
just went on.
So for me personally, I think 95% of my collection would be considered an investment, because regardless whether you're spending $10, $20, $30 on a card or even 1,000, you don't want to throw the money away. So, so for 5%, 10%, I like to have fun, with the Jelts or the occasional Ben Simmons or Jeff George card. Uh, you know, picking up some art. A lot of good people in the hobby are doing art now, custom work of, based on cards or ball players, and they put them in different types of card designs. But yeah, we don't want to. We don't want to buy cards and then ultimately they lose their value, which could happen at any time. So for folks that consider cards as an asset, I totally get that. For folks who consider cards as just a strict collectible with no monetary value, I understand that too. And for folks like me who do a hybrid approach, I just try to always stay cognizant of how much I'm spending and because it's like what we talked about on the Mike Burkus stage at the National. It's for me, it's about having an exit strategy. And I learned that when I was able to pick up a Cracker Jack card, which I showed on here on the first time I was on the show. I was able to convert 16 Mickey Mantles and 2 Michael Jordans and a Clemente autograph, and I was able to get a couple cards from that. So downsized. Dollars cents probably stayed the same, but footprint of my collection got a little bit smaller. So if I bought something that went down in value, then I never would have been able to do that. So I just think it's definitely cognizant to use applications like Card Ladder, BCP, to keep track of your collection. And most importantly, as we spoke about offline and last time I was on, just make sure you're spending money that you do have. Don't take credit card loans and other things to buy cards because that's when you end up having a situation like a margin call, so to speak, because sooner or later that credit card bill comes due. Person always want to be
Yeah.
paid back. So yeah,
Yeah.
but
And it's so easy, right? It's so easy. Listen, and I've done it. I'm full disclosure and full transfer. I talked about on this very show that at one point I had a $10,000 debt in opening wax and buying cases and opening
mhm,
boxes. And it's gone now. I paid it off, but it taught me a lesson, right? Don't do that again. It's why I don't open a ton of wax anymore,
mhm,
Tony. Number one, I'm heavy vintage anyway, but even if I
much like
wasn't, that taught me it's like the Pavlov's experiment, right? How many times you're gonna go in the alley and get whacked over the head till you stop till the light bulb goes on and you say like, hey, like every time I go in this alley, I get whacked in the head and it hurts. I'm gonna stop doing it. And for
yeah.
opening lots of wax became, but it took $10,000 lesson to learn it. Thankfully,
Mm.
that's paid off. But someone said, well, why did it's sort of embarrassing, John? Aren't you embarrassed? I'm not really embarrassed about it. I'm not proud of it either. But I used it as an example that you can go down that rabbit hole and not even realize it until one day you wake up and you get that bill. It's easy. And this isn't even just a sports card thing. This is anything you buy with a credit card, right? You forget, right? You're just running your card through a machine. You're just putting the numbers in on a computer screen and ordering something. And then you have the item. And you're like, man, I didn't pay any money for this. But like you said, that bill still shows up
But
eventually. And
you
so,
bring, yeah, that's
yeah, go ahead.
interesting. No, I was gonna say because you talk about the wax, but even I think you mentioned how we're both vintage collectors. 'Cause that's what our main focus is. And even with vintage cards now, we're seeing peaks and valleys. Like take that Baltimore News Ruth, sold for 7 million, round it at one auction, and then it gets sent to another auction house and it sells for $3 million less. So it makes you so not everything is safe. And heavens
Yeah.
forbid that person or company, whoever bought that card at 7 million and they had to take that $3 million loss. I mean, imagine if they had a loan against that. So not only are you taking a loss on a card, but you're also getting a buzz cut on the interest rate and everything because the
Yeah.
loan is still due. So hopefully, folks are not doing that. So I think a lot of folks in the hobby are smart and just, because it's like anything else, profits are not guaranteed. Long term, I think it's
Yeah,
fine, but
it's
short term.
like, and I'm a sports better. Again, full transparency. I'm not a big better, right? I'll bet a little bit each week, especially during. I'm more of an NFL guy. And here's the thing: I don't go to the casino and play blackjack or roulette or craps or anything like
Mhm.
that. But I feel with like sports betting, because I'm a sports fan, right? That you have a working knowledge, right? Hey, this person's hurt, or this guy's not playing, this guy's good, or this, you look at how they match up. And I will say this, and I don't want to sound conceited when I say that. I generally win more money than I lose. Now that varies
And
from week to week. And when I'm saying money, it's not thousands. We're not talking thousands of dollars here, right? And it just gives me an interest on each game, right? You sort of have a dog in the fight, whether it's a $5 bet, $10 bet, or $20 bet. And that's generally what I'm talking about
so,
here, right? But there's no guarantees. There's no
yeah.
guarantees, even with that. As much as I think I know the NFL and lines and overs and unders and money, as much as I think I'm maybe more than the average guy, there's some weeks you lose, right? And so same thing with cards. Is no matter where your knowledge base is, I probably would have lost on, I wasn't buying the Baltimore News, Tony, but when that happened, that surprised me that it didn't bring at least kind of what it did the last auction, right? And I think the bigger surprise was how many million less that it went for. Not even, it's one thing to go for less from 7 million to 3, but it didn't go from 7 million to 6 or 5.5. It went from 7 million to 3. So, like you said, there's no guarantees. And if you're buying that card on a credit card or a loan, that you lost, right? And that's a big hit. That's a way bigger hit, obviously, than my $10,000 wax debt on a credit card. And so, and I don't care who you are. $4 million is a lot of money. And so it's a good point by you. Go ahead.
So you got me thinking now. So I think we need Sports Card Nation lock line, and we'll do it in the same way that Jim Feist used to have his infomercials in the 1980s and early 90s. And you can give out straights, parlays, sucker bets, teasers, ties,
Don't give me any
ties win,
ideas,
ties
Tony.
lose.
Because I'm actually a very sensitive guy. If I'm not doing that, I'm joking here. But even if I was to do that, and then someone emails me like, "Hey, I took your advice and I lost," and I would honestly feel terrible.
But then not only can you offer it on the games, but then you can offer it on cards like Will Greer versus Kyler Murray. Which one's better?
No, right now neither. Will Greer's done, and Kyler Murray is hurt / being benched. So
look at this guy. See this guy here? I'm showing a Bowman Tiffany. Oh, sorry, Topps Tiffany 1990 Jeff George.
He's got one of the greatest arms in football history, not one of the greatest careers.
No,
but he had a gun.
This is a banger.
That was back in the day, man. People were killing for Jeff.
And it's the Tiffany one.
Yeah. So there's the cautionary tale, right? That you mentioned Jaden Daniels earlier, right? Who I think's a great quarterback, but now he, in a game that was a blowout, Dan Quinn left him in. He got a serious injury.
Oh, Dan Quinn.
He should be fine. Like after he rehabs and comes back probably next year. But you don't know. What if he's a different quarterback after the injury? You just like that stuff. You feel terrible. I don't even care. Like I'm not a Redskins or Commanders fan. So I'm not a Commanders fan. I still call them Redskins too.
I still call Chargers San Diego. So it's all good.
Yeah. So I'm not a fan of the Commanders, but like everything I hear about him, he's a great kid, great guy, and you don't want to see that. And you hope everything's okay, and but that's a cautionary tale, right? We've seen this before. People blow out knees and different things, and even with Tommy John surgeries, right? As they've got that down to a science, but sometimes guys are not the same even after that surgery, and so there's no guarantees, and that's, you got to be careful.
Time to hear from one of our great sponsors, but Sports Card Nation will be right back after that.
For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.
Let's go! You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast.
Speaking of that Baltimore's news, Ruth, let's piggy a little bit back off of that. Do you think that's an indicator of maybe where the vintage market is going, or you think it's just an anomaly?
Well, cards of that price are in a whole different league of its own. So we're talking, Wagner, high grade 52 tops mantle, 51 Bowman mantle, high grade. Apparently now you got LeBron cards going near that high, the shine index or whatever they're calling that. I think it's a cautionary tale of a person has a tremendous card, and auction houses like big cards, maybe not as much as before, but when you're a seller, a consigner, I should say, and you have a card of that magnitude, you could probably wheel and deal, negotiate rates, reserves, whether hidden or known, and maybe you can even get like what you think is a lowest price like you would accept, like when Ken Golden had, when he tried on his TV show, tried to get, Wagner at a certain price and he guaranteed a price. He also guaranteed a price on a Jackie Robinson jersey during the first season. Well, maybe, if it's such a special item, you can guarantee a price. And if the bidders don't get it, maybe the auction house buys it. I have no idea. But I know Heritage had a problem, 7980 OPG box that went unpaid. So they had to pay it and then re-list it again. So yeah, who knows? But cards like that, it's a whole different ballgame. That's like the major leagues.
Yeah, no doubt. We're
Probably
coming down
more
the
like
home
the
stretch
All-Star
here.
game. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about something. I try to be like this. I know you're like this. Like you're a person that is very thankful. Someone helps you out or does you a solid. You make sure to say thank you or acknowledge it, right? I do that. I'm fortunate that I have a platform. Even writing for Sports Collectors Digest. My editor said, "Hey, the first piece, introduce yourself to everyone. Like, hey, I'm going to be writing this monthly column. This is who I am." And he didn't say to do this, but one of the things, if you read that first piece I did, I literally made sure that like anyone that's coming up, from my grandfather who bought me my first pack of 1979 Topps baseball, to a store owner named Rudy, who gave me my first job, if you will, in the hobby, working at his card store. And then all the way and on up. I made sure to acknowledge all those people. When someone does something, even now, I always try to thank them publicly and even privately, and usually both. And it's just how I was brought up and raised that, we can work hard and do things ourselves and achieve things ourselves and accomplish things ourselves. But, it's not all that. Sometimes you need a little help, you need a little luck even sometimes. And so I'm always appreciative of that. If someone helps me, find something. When I talk about, the Aaron rookie, which is behind me that I bought, Danny Black was instrumental in sending me that link, right? We all have friends in the hobby that do different things. And I'm always cognizant to acknowledge that and let them know, like, hey, you didn't have to do that, and you did. Thank you. Everyone knows. I want everyone to know what kind of person you are. And I think most people are good like that. I know you are. I try to be. I feel like I check those boxes, but sometimes that's a lost art, right? And sometimes you don't see that, or maybe you don't, get acknowledged. I do a lot of racks, where I'll just send
Hmm.
cards to people, no strings attached, right? And I don't get me wrong, I don't do that to get like, hey, when I send them the cards, there's a note in there like enjoy the hobby, thanks for listening to the show, what yada yada yada. I don't say, hey, publicly post a thank you. Like I don't, you know, go for that. A lot of times they'll post a picture like thanks to John at Sports Card Nation. He sent this to me, but it doesn't happen all the time, right? And I'm not going to sit here and say that when it doesn't happen, it's not a little disappointing. But it won't also stop me from continuing to do it either. It won't be to that level. But I think most people do. But there is that group, right, that it's not. Maybe like me or you, or like most people, and sometimes maybe it's even innocent enough where they just forget or they think they did. Your kind of thoughts on we talk about community, right? That's a two-way street. Just some of your
Hmm.
thoughts when it comes to acknowledging when someone helps you or does something for you or gives you something. There's a Robinson behind me that was a custom Robinson, and Logan Ward sent that to me, and I
Hmm.
made a public post, and that's right. I think that's the least you can do in my mind, and sometimes it doesn't always happen, I guess is what I'm saying. And when it does it, it's too bad. Kind of you weigh in here, if you will.
Yeah. I think I think it's can never hurt thanking someone, whether that person. I mean, you're gonna know the person well enough, whether the person wants to be thanked publicly or privately, or But like when we were talking about tickets earlier about grading, 2025 for me has been a lot about relationships, new friendships. So met quite a few people. Turns out one of my good friends now, I consider him a friend even outside of the hobby because we could talk about anything. He works at the same company I do, different state, but it's like, cool. I mean, really great. And, Tom helped me find a Mike Schmidt 500 home run ticket signed. Um, my son does rowing. This is his second year, and I have a 1936 Olympics from August 14th. Berlin, when the
Yep.
boys in the boat, won the gold medal, showing that ticket here. And it's almost a full ticket too. It just someone tore off the corner. I guess that's like, the proof. I guess that's like the
Yeah.
stub. And that's pretty cool. And if that wasn't enough, Tom gave me a heads up for a June 8th, 1989 Phillies ticket that's autographed. And it's the game when Jelts hit the two home runs, and
There you go.
he was referred to as Babe Ruth in the auction. I mean, in the he was referred to as Babe Ruth in that game by the announcers before he hit the home run. Like, oh, here comes Babe Ruth up the bat, and then he hits a home run, and the Phillies end up winning after being down 10-0, and Jim Rooker ended up having to walk back from Philadelphia because that's what he said. If we lose the game, the Pirates, I'll walk back. And couldn't do it after that game, obviously, but he did it a couple months later. And it took him like 2 weeks or something. Then, other friends I have made. As you know, I'm a Clemente collector. And SKY, he's on Instagram, SKY Paintings. He does wonderful work. Like here's a Clemente for mayor, and instead of saying Bob Clemente, it says Roberto Clemente. And then he did a Eddie Goodell, after modeled
Yeah.
after 52 Tops. And one of my favorite cards that I've probably never owned is the Nat Lajoie from 33 Gaudi, which came out in 34. Here's that little piece of art that he made. And he also helped me out. He was at the Boston Shriners show, and he saw a Joe Wood card. And I said, even before I said, hey, if you see Joe Wood card, just let me know. Give me a heads up. He texted me, yeah, I need that. And as it turned out, it was from Stan Locke. And I know Stan from the Philly show and the National. He's the dealer who bought the mantles from at the Philly show there, and they had me to buy the Crackerjack cards. And I go, yeah, tell him that, tell him, because my friend was talking to him. I told my friend, "Just tell him this is Tony from Philly, like I'm some bookie, and Stan said, hey, it's Tony. Hey, I said, yeah, I can do that price, and there's other folks in the hobby, like I look at what I have curated, since being out of the hobby for 35 years, and 90% of the favorite cards in my hobby, regardless of value, are things that were recommended, preferred. People found it for me, and we're talking
Yeah.
everything about from Joe Wood to Steve Jeltz to
Yeah.
Olympic stuff, and Nolan Ryan, Sandy Koufax. So my favorite cards, the vast majority of them easily came from recommendations. So, if that person feels comfortable, I'll put a little, if I post about it, whether in a private group or publicly, I'll definitely thank that person. It's just who I am. That's how I am.
Yeah, that's how I am. And it's a good point. Like I've had people send me something and sometimes they'll be like, hey, listen, don't I've had and I will again, I'm not gonna mention names here, but I've had someone send me something and say, listen, I wanted to do this for you, but do me a favor, don't even I
Mhm.
know how you are, John, and you would normally like publicly post and thank me. I'd rather you wouldn't because if someone sees it, like I didn't send them something, and
Yeah.
then they might get rubbed the so I know you appreciate it. You don't have to make a public post. I'm not going to be mad. I actually don't want you to because I just don't want other
Yeah.
people feeling like, I don't like them or whatever the case may be. And so I won't if they, but, and if I do, I usually will ask the person, hey, I'd like to publicly acknowledge this. Any objection to that? And most of the time people say, no,
Yeah.
that's great. But every once in a while, someone say, no, you don't have I don't need that. I didn't do that for that reason and that sort of thing. I know when I send things, I never shill, if you will, to like, hey, do this.
You don't you
And
don't
it's
show wait, hold on.
no,
You
and
don't
listen,
show
we're not gonna
you no
not
no
on
no
this
no 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 no
episode.
no 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 you don't show thank yous? Ah, come on, man.
No,
Well, you know,
that's a whole
speaking
nother
of
topic when we use the word chill. But
speaking of
so I
thank you,
don't.
I just have
Go
to
ahead.
interrupt because I know we're running out of time, but I was talking with another friend who I made this year, Ray from Philly, and we're
Yeah.
talking about the Basketball Card Hall of Fame. And Ray and I just want to thank you again for. I know I wasn't able to make the episode. I was a last minute cancellation. Had to go on the DL for that night. Last minute scratch. If we're talking about the ponies, but thank you for helping us with promote that Basketball Card Hall of Fame, the vintage and the modern eras, and it was great having you on, or actually you having Ray on. I was going to say having us on, but I was there in spirit, and sharing your ballot votes for both eras, and thank you for that. We really appreciate it.
Well, number one, it's fun, right? And I know I talked to you about this even not recording, right? I believe in that. I think it's important. It's fun. It gets people part of the process. They get to weigh in on what cards they want to see. And I do the football and I do the baseball as well. The basketball one was the first, and I'll probably do this going forward too, Tony. That was the first time I actually shared what I voted for. So I think it sets the precedent now. I'll probably do that, going forward with the other sports card Hall of Fames. But Ray and you guys and everyone, I know there's different guys involved with the different sports.
Hmm.
You all do a great job. Ray spearheads that, and I think it's important. It's fun, right? We get to weigh in, and right, we have a Hall of Fame for everything. We have a dessert Hall of Fame, right? We have a dessert Hall of Fame. We got to have sports cards Hall of Fame, and so I believe in it. It's fun. I partake in it. So why not do that and promote it and share it and get other people that maybe not aware of it to be aware of it and partake in it. And I know it's a labor of love for all you guys that are involved in it, and it's fun to see, right? It's fun, like any kind of Hall of Fame, just like the baseball one that's coming up in real life, with players, right? It's always fun to see who gets in, who doesn't, debate like why this guy should have been in, and why this maybe guy shouldn't have been in. As long as it's done in good spirit and doesn't become personal, right? That's all fun to do. And same thing with sports cards, right? We've got a lot of iconic cards, and then still that aren't in yet, but we'll get in as all these classes, each year, right? And so it's something I'll support for as long as I'm around and partake in. And I've told that to Ray. I'll say this to you, right? Just give me as much notice as you can, and we'll get you on, and we'll go through the candidates, and let people know to get rock your vote and get your votes in, and see if your cards make it in. It's all fun, and that's what the hobby's supposed to be at the end of the day. And so it's easy for me when something's fun and interesting, right? It's easy for me to promote it because that's what it should be all about to begin with. I know you thank me, but yep.
Fun and people.
Well,
Make
listen,
it fun and people.
Yep. Well, Tony, I appreciate it, man. We could probably do 3 hours. We didn't even touch on everything. We hit a couple of the big things and whatnot, and we'll do it again. And we won't wait till the end of the year when we do it. We'll do it sooner, like we. So I always give the guests kind of share your social medias or anything you want, and so people can find you and see what you post and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel. I haven't been making videos lately, but I do have 2 upcoming videos that people will like. One was about a fellow collector who worked with his father-in-law and put together the 1914 and 1915 Cracker Jack sets from 2006 to 2008, and they accomplished it in less than 2 years. And then the second episode is going to be about the 1968 Topps 3D set. So those are the 2 shows I'm working on for YouTube to the end of the year, and I'll take a break. And YouTube, just search for TJ, then is online, and you can find me. Or just look for, TJ Steve Jeltz or something, and then you'll find me quickly. So, yeah.
There you go. Well, listen, man,
And
this is always, this is always fun. And maybe we'll do some other stuff. We talked about maybe reviving a show that I used to do, maybe rebranding it. So there's a little tease. I can't guarantee it, but 2 guys that like to talk, right? That's easy.
And with our hands.
With that too. So we have no trouble, filling time, and we have a blast doing it. So Tony, as always, appreciate you making some time and coming on and chopping some stuff up. And, for as much as we talk offline, it's always fun to do it online as well. So thanks, man.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
We always have a blast, me and Tony, chopping up some hobby, whether, like I said, you heard me there, tell them whether it's online or offline. We give each other the straight scoop, how we feel, whether we agree or disagree, it doesn't matter, right? And that's the thing, I think that's the takeaway, right? We don't have to agree with everything our hobby friends say or do or takes, right? As long as they're, if they're good people doing good things overall, right? That's what it should be really about. We've had some stuff come up recently, and we gotta be those kind of people where friendships are bigger than just having a different stance on something. And for me, that's just the way I was brought up. So there's no trouble for me. And a little tease here, might see some future collabs with myself and Tony coming down the line. So look forward for that. So now we're going to hear from our Hobbies of People, announcer of the week, and put a bow tie on this week's episode.
Time for our Hobby is the People announcer of the week.
Hello, Sports Card Nation. This is Al from Iconic Baseball. Keep collecting, stay iconic, and above all else, remember that the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People announcer of the week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.